My son and I have been looking for a pair of double kick pedals for a little while, and we did a lot of research. And I was looking for something that he could learn to use 2 feet, but also that would be able to grow with him. I'm a firm believer that practice should be done on the same equipment or tools that you're using for your trade. That way you're building the muscle memory, you're building the experience consistent with what you're going to be using when you actually do your job. We ended up centering in on the DW9000. While these are pretty decently high-end and expensive, we did find a great deal on reverb. These double kick pedals are built to last, so the springs in here are high quality, the chains are all high quality. Everything here is made for professional drummers. Very exciting. While there's a lot of documentation on these pedals, how great they are and how you can adjust them, there's also a lot of comments on them being difficult to use. If you have a young drummer, or if you've had trouble using the DW9000s, if you found them hard to press, then it's probably an adjustment issue. I'm going to take you through all the points of adjustment on the DW9000. And please watch to the end. I'll share some tips on how we set up these pedals to make them easier to use. So the first thing we'll go into is the spring. Let's take a look at that. So the spring is one of the most important adjustments you can make on this pedal. Looser settings will make the pedal feel softer and it'll float more. If you tighten it up more, the pedal's going to feel more mechanical or harder. The resistance technically means you'll be putting less power into the head of the drum when you're playing. To reduce that resistance, it's going to give you more of your kick going to the drum. If you increase the resistance, more of that's going to be caught by the spring. So you can adjust that to your heart's content. Adjustments are made down here. So to adjust your spring tension, you can just raise or lower this cylindrical or disc shaped nut. Press down. So if I want to increase the tension, I can raise it up, press down, and using my fingers I can either loosen or tighten the hexagonal cylindrical nut on the bottom. This adjustment is on all the springs. It looks like this is a 3/16. So as I loosen this, that's going to actually loosen this here. That goes into the bottom of the cam, and it's going to allow me to make some adjustments along this slide. So as you can see, that slides freely. I can change the angle of the foot pedal as well as the angle of the beater. To account for the foot pedal angle, let's go ahead and remove this so you can see. Beater's easy to take off. You can adjust this right here. It'll slide up and down to adjust for your pedal independently. So I mentioned the cam can be adjusted to increase the size or the rotation. That would be done underneath here with your, in this case it's a Allen wrench. Some of the versions will allow you to use a drum key for this. So after loosening this, you can see the cam slides. You can extend it and tighten it again, giving yourself more of a rounded play and more power. If you're using the shaft, you have a spring here that can equally be adjusted independently, as well as one on your left pedal. This shaft can be taken off, so if you have 2 kick drums, you can separate the 2 and use them independently without the connecting shaft. The shaft here is great if you have 1 kick drum and you want to do double kick on that single kick drum. With everything adjusted and ready to go, it's time to install it onto the bass drum or our kick drum and do our final tuning. To install we will need to adjust this nut to tighten down the clasp onto the bass drum. And if you have a carpet, what's nice about these is they have Velcro on the bottom, at least the ones I have to. So this will help keep them in place so they don't move around when you're playing them. You just go ahead and hook this in, tighten this nut, and then the final adjustments are right here where you can do the final sort of tightening onto your bass drum. And then once that's hooked up, we'll adjust the beaters to make sure that they are aligned with the bass drum pad. I mentioned I would talk a little bit about some of the adjustments we made for Lucas. He's a young drummer, 10 years old, and to be able to push these pedals down took a lot of force and resistance. It was difficult for him. First of all, you have to reduce the spring tension, and there are springs on both sides. So for the left pedal, you have 2 springs to be able to handle the entire axle here between the two to ensure that it's got the rebound. But the tighter the springs are, the more force is taken into the spring versus going into the drum. So just by loosening up this spring, we were able to make it easier for him to push. And that allowed him to get a little more natural feel with both of these pedals in relation to the beaters hitting the drum. Now, one of the concerns I had in terms of loosening or lightening up the spring is that, true, you're getting more force into the drum, but you're also losing some of the recoil in terms of the spring pulling that beater back. And that sacrifices a little bit of speed. So to counteract that, I actually brought the beaters in a little bit so the center of gravity of the beater comes closer to the axle. And that did help as well. If you look at the chain, again, it's very solid, very well-designed chain. You have the ability to take the key, your drum key, loosen that up, and then slide it forward or backward. And what this does is it helps change the angle of the pedal independently of the spring itself. So it's great for fine-tune adjustments between the 2 pedals, but more importantly, it brought the chain closer, it gave more angle and more power. So that gave us the ability to get a little more power into the pedal itself versus riding it back and having a longer chain at a lower angle. Again, this is to the taste or feel of whoever drummer is drumming on it, so that adjustment's up to you. But that did help Lucas quite a bit. This infinite adjustable cam, we can bring this out and create more of an arc, or you can drop it in. And what we found was when you extend the cam and create more of a rounded profile, it takes a little more force to get that beater moving. So by dropping that all the way in, I was able to avoid that initial force. So we lost some of the initial force there, or we reduced it, and then we also reduced the spring tension to allow these things to move a lot faster. The final tip, and I came across this looking through many of the YouTube videos and documents out there, and I'll say there's not a lot on how do you set up these pedals for younger players. But one other tip was check the oscillation on the pedals itself, or on the beaters, I should say. There's a natural tempo, and you can see they have a tendency to try to want to swing at a slightly different rate. But if you're getting totally different swings, that's a good sign that the adjustments on one pedal are different than the other, and you might need to adjust a little bit. If they're swinging pretty consistently, that is a good sign that you're probably similar on each of these pedals, and they'll play pretty well. Overall, I'll say Luke's been playing these pedals for a little over a week now, and he loves them. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's any other equipment you'd like us to try or share or discuss. We're on a journey here to learn more about the drums, and it is an exciting journey. I hope that all of you will consider subscribing, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future.